Republicans in Connecticut are trying to do something about it. And there's a website up now called AffordableConnecticut.com. And joining us on the hotline from the 16th district, 16th. Now that's my old stomping grounds: Southington, Plainville, Wolcott, Milldale, Prospect, parts of Cheshire. Senator Rob Sampson. Rob, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I am well, Pastor Will. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you today.
Yes, sir. Tell us about this Affordable Connecticut. Somebody's trying to help us, aren't they?
Right. Well, I mean, I think Connecticut Republicans are focused on solutions right now. The Democrats, they want to talk about everything but the problems facing Connecticut residents. It's all abortion, guns, January 6th, a bunch of distractions, really, to what is really affecting the people across Connecticut, which I think you hit the nail on the head. It's inflation. It's the rising cost of goods and services. It's gasoline. And crime. You mentioned crime a little earlier today, too. Those are the big things that people in Connecticut are concerned with, and Republicans have stayed laser focused on those things. And I think if we stick to that, I think we'll do well in November, and we may even be able to force the Democrats into a position where they actually have to give up on some of their craziness and give us things that are beneficial to the citizens of the state.
Yeah. Why do you suppose there's such a disconnect? I mean, obviously, if you look at it from a national perspective, there's nothing Democrats can run on. They've been an abject failure, literally in every turn, every decision, every policy has been a complete colossal mess up. But locally here in Connecticut, it seems like Democrats are taking the same path. We don't even consider the problems that their people are facing. And let's be clear. I mean, this is a tax. This inflation, whether it's gas or food or other things. I mean, this is a regressive tax that affects all people of all status levels, all social, economic, and social classes. Why won't the Connecticut Democrats even talk about it? Forget about fixing it. They won't even address it.
Well, Pastor, I mean, I think they're just simply following their business model. In one way, I admire the Democrats because they do something that Republicans are not very good at, which is they stick to their agenda no matter what.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they just won a landslide election or they're facing, their demise as they may be this November. They stick to it. And their business model, their agenda is to basically redistribute wealth, turn us into a progressive socialist society, and punish hardworking people in favor of people that will be dependent upon the state and therefore, guarantee their future electoral success. But they've gone too far, obviously. And, rising prices and the crime issue are hurting citizens all across the spectrum in the state. And I don't know how they're going to recover from that. And if Republicans can stay focused and make sure people understand that we are the party that's interested in doing the right thing, looking after the citizens of the state, doing our job responsibly, actually going to Hartford for the purpose of making Connecticut a better place instead of just furthering our own electoral desires in the future, I think we can do very, very well.
There's a novel concept, actually go to Hartford to do the people's business. Let me ask you this. I don't know if there's a clear answer for this, but my sense is, I've been telling people for a long time, if you're ever going to run for anything on the Republican side, now's the year to do it, because there's so, forget about Biden's approval rating. Democrats in general are underwater. People are waking up to the fact, even Democrats I talk to are waking up to the fact their party is destroying the country, not helping the state. We're waving around this, we have a budget. Yeah, because you got billions in COVID money that you were able to spend. If you didn't get that, we'd be in a huge deficit. We're giving out bonuses to state employees with the stated intention of slowing down retirement. Not going to happen. Our retirement pension fund is already one of the most underfunded, if not the most in the country, second most.
Right.
Do they think these problems are just going to solve themselves, or are they going to go away? I mean, can you help us understand from a, you deal with Democrats all the time. Your folks do. What do they think? I mean, who's going to fix this mess? I guess is the question.
Yeah, well, they're certainly not going to fix it. They think everything's fine. If you listen to the governor, he's walking around acting like he's the benefactor of all of the great times that we're living under. So disconnected from reality. I just want to hit on a couple of things you just mentioned, which is that people need to realize that the only thing that is benefiting from the current financial circumstances that are going on in the country and in our state is the state government of Connecticut. If everyone else is broke because we can't afford to put gas in our car, but the state government has like the largest surplus that they've had since I've been in office, and it's all artificial because it's certainly not based on any good management skills. They've mismanaged the state government for 40 years, and if it were not for COVID and the federal government printing all kinds of money, we would have a massive multi-billion-dollar budget deficit. But what has happened instead is a blue governor, is receiving money from a Democratic president who wants to prop up all of these poorly run Democratic states. So we have that influx of cash in the state, causing inflation, of course, driving up the cost of goods and services. And when goods and services cost more, that means you pay more tax on everything. And that more tax is ending up in the coffers of the state of Connecticut. And that's why we have this massive budget surplus, enough to actually pay down record amounts on our pension debt and our budget reserve fund, and still be able to have money left over. And the Democrats are sitting on that money. And the reason why they're sitting on that money is because I think that they know that after this budget cycle, a lot of their bad policy decisions are going to come home to roost. They're using one-time revenues from COVID to pay for things that they have made permanent. And they're going to be looking to the taxpayers for more money after that happens. So right now, when there's money in the bank, I think it's only right that we give it back to the taxpayers. People are suffering, and this is one way to offset some of the inflation and rising costs.
Well, again, I don't know if it's a disorder or they just can't help but lie. But it's like, when the president stands up there and says, I'm doing everything I can to bring gas prices down. Well, that's just a bald-faced lie. I mean, nothing can be further from the truth. I mean, part of the reason the gas prices are high because of you. But I mean, we don't have Putin to blame here in Connecticut. Who can they blame here in Connecticut other than the generic, it's Republicans' fault? I mean, Trump's not in office. Putin's in Russia. I mean, when Connecticut residents look at the sad state of affairs, who can be pointed to as being the person or people held responsible to, Rob?
Yeah, Pastor, there's no way they're going to blame the Republicans. I mean, good luck. I mean, the last time Republicans held, any major office in the state of Connecticut was Jody Rell as governor over a decade ago. Yeah. And when she was governor, she was faced with a veto-proof majority in both the House and Senate chamber. We don't have any federal elected representatives who are Republicans. All 5 congressmen are Democrats, both U.S. senators, the governor, every statewide office, and they have 2-to-1 margins effectively in both chambers. They run everything, and therefore they own anything. And I mean, despite that, Republicans have actually done a good job of preventing a lot of bad things. We stopped tolls the last couple of years. We prevented some really bad gun control this past year. Sure. And it's because we've got the people on our side. And, that's the whole point behind Affordable Connecticut is that, the people of Connecticut, if they get behind something, they can force this governor and even the huge Democrat majorities to do the right thing. I tell people all the time, stop waiting for some amazing political person to come along in either party to fix things. That's never going to happen. What needs to happen is the people have to demand what they want from their elected officials. And I think even the Democrats will give it to them because everyone in politics is sensitive to being elected. And we saw it work with tolls, and I think it can work with this too. If people get behind Affordable Connecticut, and let me plug the website, which is affordableconnecticut.com. Connecticut is all spelled out. Okay. Go there. Sign the petition and tell this governor and the majority Democrats that you want your money back because it's your money. Right.
I mean, there's a concept. Is this the year, maybe even an unplanned occurrence? We're talking with State Senator Rob Sampson. Is this the year, Rob, that maybe the Republicans actually take back the House or the Senate, or I mean, there's not that many people running, I think, locally, right? So, I guess the question I have, I mean, I think there's a good possibility we're going to see some Republicans take the Democrats' seat. I mean, I think Richard Blumenthal is vulnerable. I think Johanna Hayes is vulnerable. I hope John Larson, the poster boy for why we should have term limits, I think John Larson's vulnerable. Is this the year that Republicans might actually recapture some voice in Washington and Hartford?
Well, I'd say this is the year we ought to be doing it for sure. The concern I have more than anything is whether or not we have strong candidates running.
Yep.
I know we have a lot of great candidates running for federal office. My concern, of course, is the state House and Senate.
Sure.
And I feel like Republicans are going to do very well. We're going to win a lot of seats. People don't realize, by the way, Will, that we do very well as it is.
Yeah.
If you add up all of the votes cast, say in the 2018 election, 2020 is kind of an outlier because of Trump and all that,
right.
Mail-in voting. But you go back to 2018 and you look at that election, the number of votes cast across the whole state for Republican candidates for House and Senate was virtually the same as the Democrats. It just so happens the Democrats won the seats that they won by tiny margins, and Republicans tended to win by big margins. And but we can take back so many seats with very small amounts. Another couple of 300 votes in many places would have made the difference. This year, the House, I think, has a chance to pick up a great many seats. I don't know if we can get to a majority simply based on the number of people that are running and where. The Senate scares me, though. I got to tell you, I just went on the Secretary of State's website and looked through all of the people that are running.
Yeah.
And we just don't have enough strong Republican candidates running everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. And I think it's a sign that, people are just so turned off to politics in general. And they see what happens to people who are political figures, particularly outspoken ones. This is a tough job sometimes.
Well, they get savage.
I can understand why people don't want to put themselves in the line of fire.
Nobody wants to do it. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Hey, so I was not in favor of this, but we put the fuel tax to sleep for a while, the diesel gas tax, highway tax, kicking in July 1st. What a perfect time for that tax to kick in, July 1st, isn't it?
Not a single Republican vote for that highway use tax, by the way, I'll just point out. And Democrats voted for it as a block, and I'm quite certain there's a lot of Democratic, politicians running for re-election across this state, and every one of them needs to be challenged on that today. Yeah. Especially since, as we just discussed, this Republican program, one of the pieces of it is to eliminate the highway use tax. And that's a tax on trucks that bring goods into the state. And people say, well, that's a tax on trucks. It doesn't affect me. Well, yes, it does, because everything that we buy is coming on a truck at some point. And that's a direct, and so it's the diesel tax. I don't have a diesel car. Well, guess what? Your groceries come on a truck that runs on diesel. So those things are very, very important to getting the cost of things under control.
I'm curious to talk to you about this. I don't know if you heard this, but I've read several places, I've heard several times, the prediction is that once diesel is consistently over $7 a gallon across the country, we're going to shut down, because at that point the trucking companies can't make money. Can't make money if they're putting $7 a gallon diesel fuel in their trucks, and a lot of them they'll resort to parking it rather than losing money. Have you heard anything like that? Has that been a common theme from your perspective?
Honestly, I have no idea what the breaking point is. I just know we're getting closer to it all the time.
Yeah.
I think that, generally speaking, as the costs rise for trucking companies, they're simply going to pass that on to their customers, and we're all going to end up paying for it. But there is definitely a breaking point. The problem with this country and the state in particular is apathy. We got to this point because citizens are not paying close attention to what their government is up to, and the government is abusing that, ability to do things without oversight in a big way. And that's why it's grown so out of control, and there's a lot of political patronage and people taking care of each other and political jobs and everything else, and spending and politicians and political parties using taxpayer dollars, hardworking taxpayer money for their own gain, to be able to buy off corporations with corporate welfare or hand out grant money to various organizations in exchange, effectively, for their support. That's what's wrong. That's why the founders of this country were so brilliant when they came up with the concept of limited government. They never imagined that we would have state governments being able to vote to give giant tax credits to individual corporations, for example. It's like, what? That completely flies in the face of equal protection and, American values that treat everyone the same, and there's no royalty here, etc. We're effectively creating a different type of royalty when we create this special treatment. The first sentence of the Connecticut Constitution, Will, basically says that no one gets special treatment. And we should stick to that.
Here in Connecticut, we should change them out of everybody gets special treatment here. Well, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know where it's going to go. Grateful for folks like you, Rob, and others that are trying to keep it together and provide pushback to the Democrats. So thank you so much. State Senator from District 16, Rob Sampson, always a pleasure to speak with you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. And the feeling's mutual, Will. Without people like you and Todd and Tom on the radio, people would not have the facts they need to push back on this stuff. So thank you so much for doing it. You're welcome. Thanks for saying that. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a break.